Welcome to our marketing automation webinar. The plan today for the next 90 minutes is to walk you through an introduction to Zoho Marketing Automation, to run through the contact management part of the system, how to build campaigns, how to build journeys, the website integration, and then also any Q&A at the end to answer any questions. Quick introduction. My name's Jake. I run a company called Limitless IT Consultancy. We are a IT consultancy that specializes in Zoho. It's all we do day in, day out. We work with clients primarily in the UK across a whole range of industries to get the most from their Zoho system. But that's enough about me, and we'll get straight into the webinar. So the first thing I want to do is start off with what is Zoho Marketing Automation. Now, a lot of today's webinar is going to be very practical. I'm going to show you how to do things in Zoho Marketing Automation. But before we want to do that, I just want to talk a little bit about the product as a whole. So Zoho Marketing Automation is Zoho's more advanced marketing tool. And they do kind of have two separate marketing tools that can cause confusion. You have Zoho Marketing Automation and you have Zoho Campaigns. Now, lots of people in the past used to use Zoho Campaigns and may have moved to Zoho Marketing Automation, or may, quite frankly, be confused as to what Zoho Marketing Automation is. The difference between the two is quite simple. Zoho Campaigns is purely email and SMS marketing. It's a simple emailing tool for all intents and purposes, kind of your MailChimp competitor. Zoho Marketing Automation is a full marketing suite. It does email and SMS marketing, but it also does stuff like integrate with your website, allows you to build advanced journeys, allows you to do WhatsApp messaging. So from my point of view, almost every business should just default to Zoho Marketing Automation. Unless you're a very small business and you know you want to keep things very simple, I would always go to Zoho Marketing Automation. Now, I'm not going to spend too much time on pricing here, but I just wanted to highlight there's a couple of ways to subscribe to Zoho Marketing Automation. The first option is to pay for the app itself, and you can see the pricing on the screen here in pounds. Now, you can also get Zoho Marketing Automation through the various Zoho bundles. So there is Zoho Marketing Plus, which is a bundle that includes a whole load of applications, including marketing automation. You also get Backstage in there, which is an event planning tool, analytics for advanced reporting, and a load of other applications too. What I'll be using today, though, is Zoho One. Zoho One is Zoho's bundle package that includes most, if not all, of the main Zoho applications, and it includes the highest end version of most of those applications. So today we'll be using Zoho One to go through Zoho Marketing Automation. That said, if you were to use Zoho Marketing Automation standalone or a part of the Marketing Plus bundle, it will look very, very similar as to what we're doing today. By the way, if you are subscribed to the app individually or as part of the Marketing Plus bundle, and you're using other Zoho applications, I would highly recommend taking a look at your pricing. It's very easy for the pricing of Zoho One to become better when you're paying for multiple Zoho apps individually, especially when you look at the price here compared to the price here. You can see even if you've just got a few users on Enterprise, very quickly Zoho One can end up being the better pricing option. But that's enough of the pricing today because that's not the main focus. We may well do a webinar in the future around what's the best Zoho bundle, but for today, I just wanted to give you a brief overview. So, with that said, we're going to go into the marketing automation application. So this is the home page for Zoho Marketing Automation. Now this is all within our test systems. Everything in here is fake data, test data, just so I can share my screen and give you a full overview of what we're doing. Now, the home screen here gives you an overview of your different contacts within the system. Now, if I'm honest, for the most part, me and all the clients we work with ignore this page. The reason we ignore it is because this page is really set up for you to be tracking lead stages within marketing automation. But most clients we work with would do this within the CRM and then sync their contacts into marketing automation. The reason you've got this flexibility is because you could use Zoho Marketing Automation as a standalone product, but I expect most people, if not everybody on this call, probably already has Zoho CRM, so I would ignore the stages here. Now, on the sidebar, we've got a load of different sections for where we can start using our Zoho Marketing Automation. Now, I'm going to start from the top with contacts, and we're going to go through what we need to do to get our contacts into marketing automation, to segment them, and to ensure they're getting the right emails. And to do that, we're going to start with topics. Now, topics are a little bit unlike something you'll find in any other marketing tool. Topics are a way for contacts to tell you what topics they're interested in receiving information about. The idea being, if you send out a load of emails and you get some unsubscribes, instead of someone unsubscribing from everything, they can unsubscribe just from an individual topic. That then means if you send them a bit of information about something else, they can still receive it. Now, real world experience here, what I found working with clients over the past 7 or 8 years, even if you set up really good, clearly well-defined topics, most people still unsubscribe from everything. So my view is, yes, utilize topics, but keep it simple. Some companies I've worked with and some clients in the past have spent days, sometimes weeks, agonizing over exactly how their topics should be set up so they're the clearest they can be. And in reality, it probably ends up being wasted work because 98% of people will just hit unsubscribe all if they decide they're going to unsubscribe. So what we typically do with topics is we start with a newsletter topic and we might add one or two additional topics. Now I've got a couple set up in this system already, but I'll add an additional topic here and I'm going to call it demo for webinar. Now I have to give the topic a description. Now an important thing about both of these elements is the end users can see this. So what you don't want to do is call a topic, I don't know, gold customers ready to buy. Because if that customer goes in to manage their topics, they will see that they are in the topic gold customers ready to buy. So make sure whatever you put in as a topic name and description is client friendly because ultimately they will see this when they go in to unsubscribe. And I've seen some awful names of things in here that customers have then ended up. I think we worked with one customer that had like I think that what they were aiming for was like a do not mail list, only they'd made it as a topic, included people in it, and then accidentally emailed people in that topic. And yeah, not the best way to email customers. So keep all of the names here customer friendly. Now, once we have our topics set up, we can then go in and create our lists. Now, most people on this call will probably be familiar with a mailing list. It's just a list of contacts you've got that you can send emails to. Now, when you go into lists in marketing automation, you can create a brand new list very easily and you can give it a name. So I'm going to call it demo for webinar again, and I can save that list. Now from here, I can go in and add contacts to that list. And I can either add contacts manually one by one. I can import it from the cloud, and I've got a couple of different locations I can import data from. Or I can import from the computer, and then I can attach a spreadsheet and import a whole load of email addresses at one point. Now, again, what I expect will happen for most people on this call, I'm expecting will likely have Zoho CRM. So what you're going to do is instead of creating a list and then adding contacts manually, you're going to create your list. And in fact, we'll do this again here. We're going to call it demo CRM leads. And what you're then going to do is you're going to go into settings in the top right corner of marketing automation. Then you're going to go to integrations and apps. Now, if you've set this up previously, you may see some apps here, and you may see an app for Zoho CRM. If you don't, we're going to connect app, and we're going to look for Zoho CRM in here. There it is. And we're going to select that, and we're going to hit connect. Now, when we do that, that's building a connection between Zoho CRM and Zoho Marketing Automation. What I can now do is set up a sync. So I can say, okay, I want to set up a sync from the CRM module leads, and I'm going to sync to our list demo CRM leads. Now, a couple of things I want to do here. I want to make sure when a lead is converted, it's removed from the list because then they're no longer a lead. So I want to make sure they're removed. I'm going to choose their subscription type, so whether they're marketing or non-marketing. In this case, I'm going to assume they're all marketing contacts. Obviously, if you've got a split of people that have opted in and not opted into marketing, you may want to set them as non-marketing and then control who actually gets emails. But for now, I'm going to say everybody's got marketing. And at this point, I'll also choose what topics they're subscribed to. So this goes back to our original list. So I can opt them in automatically to all topics, or I could opt them into just an individual topic. Now, it's worth noting this is what you do for opting everybody in that sync to that topic. What we can also do is once they're in the system, we can set up automations so only people who fit a certain criteria are added to a topic if we want as well. Again, though, my recommendation is always to keep topics simple. When we want to talk about segmentation, there's a separate tool for doing that within marketing automation. So we're going to choose demo for webinar. In fact, let's choose all of these. So they've got all three topics. We're going to choose what basis we've got permission to market to these people. So we're going to say we have got legitimate interest. Legitimate interest, I suspect, is probably what a lot of people will use if someone's inquired with you. Arguably, there is a legitimate interest to receive your content, so you may well select that. Of course, you've got other options in there as well, and obviously, depending on your country, the country of the people you're emailing, and different privacy rules, you may have to select different options there. I'm also going to select to update empty fields. What that means is if I enter a value in CRM and it syncs into marketing automation, if I delete that value in marketing automation, I want it to be in CRM, sorry, I want it to be removed from marketing automation. And then the final two options here is exclude opt-out contacts. Yes, we want to do that. If they're opted out of emails in Zoho CRM, we want to exclude them from marketing automation. And we also want to remove leads and contacts as opted out from the CRM. So if they have synced and then they're opted out, we want to remove them from the sync as well. We'll then hit next, take a second to process. And what it's then going to do is give us a list of our fields in CRM on the left side and a list of our fields in marketing automation on the right side. And now we can quite simply go through and it's auto mapped some fields and we can add additional fields if we want. Now, this sometimes catches people out. Not all of your fields from CRM automatically sync into marketing automation. You need to tell it what data you want to sync. So usually for me, I'm just going to switch into our CRM. Usually for me, the data I want to sync is data I'm likely to segment on. So in this case, it might be industry. So I'm going to go into marketing automation. I'm going to search for industry, and then I'm going to search in industry here. Now you'll see, because I've set up a sync previously, I've actually already got a field here, but this is actually one of my tricks. So when setting up Zoho Marketing Automation, let's see if we can do another one here. So we'll do country. What I often find, if I put in a field here, so I'm going to pull through country. If I scroll through the built-in list of fields in marketing automation, there are absolutely loads of them. And in fact, when you're creating a segment, you see even more. Because of that, it can be quite difficult to find which fields you're actually syncing from the CRM. So one of my tricks to make this easier is I always call the fields I'm syncing CRM dash and then the field name. That then means I can very easily search for that field when I'm creating segments. So it just makes it much easier to use marketing automation. So I'm going to do that and hit initiate. Now that's going to then create a sync between marketing automation and the CRM so that whenever a lead is added into the CRM, it is automatically added into Zoho Marketing Automation. Now that initial sync is going to take a little while because there's quite a lot of contacts in there, or quite a lot of leads in our case. You can see we've got, how many have we got in CRM here? We have got around 20,000. So that's going to take quite a while for those to sync through. So we're going to move on and do some other bits, and then we'll come back and we'll check on that sync in a little while. So the next thing we've got in here is our segments. So I can now go into my segments. Now, to explain the difference between a list and a segment, a list is effectively a static collection of contacts or leads. So we've gone in and we've created that sync with CRM. So that's just now effectively a dump of all of our leads from Zoho CRM or all of our contacts from CRM. Or if we've added a list manually, it's a dump of all of that data from that particular list. Now, in our case, with those 20,000 leads, chances are those 20,000 leads don't all want to receive the same kind of emails, or we might not want to send them the same kind of emails because they're a different type of lead. So that's when we'd use segments to break down that list of 20,000 into a smaller group of leads that we actually want to email. Now, segments look quite scary when you're first getting used to them. I know it trips up some clients. Once you get the hang of it, it can be really easy to set up. So we're going to create a segment now. And we're going to say we just want to email leads in a certain industry. So we're going to say leads in, now what industry did we have over here a moment ago? Let's open this up. Storage equipment, that's a very specific industry we have there. We're going to copy that up. And now the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to search a list membership, because I only want leads, I only want contacts that are in the CRM leads list. Now, because that one's still syncing, I've actually got one I prepared earlier down here called Zoho CRM-leads. It's the same data, it's just I've synced it earlier in the day so we can carry on with what we're doing here. So I'm going to select that list. Note, I can add multiple if I want. So if I wanted to include both CRM leads and CRM contacts, I can do that as well. But in this case, just leads. I'm going to hit next. And now this is where we're going to use our trick, because if I scroll down here, you can see there are loads and loads and loads and loads of fields in here. So this is where we're going to use our trick, and we're going to search CRM dash, and we're going to go for industry. And we're going to go industry is, and we're going to paste in storage equipment. We'll then hit save and proceed. Now that's then going to generate our segment, and hopefully we'll see some contacts in there. This is actually a new contact, so I wonder whether this one's actually been synced yet. So let me have a quick look in here. Obviously, because we've just set this sync up, it's going to take a little while for it all to come through. So let's just click into this, because I can see now they are starting to come through. So there's 3,000 here. Let's go in here and just have a look what industry we've got. Okay, we'll just use this industry just so we can get some things into our criteria. So I'm going to change that to this. And then hopefully what we see is, there we go. We can now start to see leads in our segment. So I'm going to call it leads in SAP, or ASP as it is in this case. There we go. And that's now my segment. Now, where a segment is really, really important is if I go into the CRM and I change the industry for one of those leads, it will automatically move out of the segment. If I change a lead and I move it into that industry, it will automatically move into the segment. So segments in a way are kind of just a filtered list. They're dynamic. You can't just add somebody to a segment. You set a criteria, and then based on that criteria, any given time is who will show up in that list. Now, this will become more important later on, because when we go into journeys, we're going to use segments and people being moved into segments and out of segments as ways to trigger our journeys. Now, this is quite a basic segment, but we can do more. So we can also stack multiple criteria, and we can clone. So if I go in here and clone, that will then create a new segment, which I can then edit very easily. And I can go in here and I can add additional criteria in here. So what I might want to do is say, if I search for last, I can get in here all sorts of last bits of information. If I say campaign, for example, I can see latest campaign sent. And I can start filtering to say, okay, I only want to see leads where the industry is this, and the latest campaign they were sent was this, for example. Hit save, and that will then give me my list of those particular leads. So you can really tune down to what you want. Now, the other thing we can also do is bring in deals data from the CRM as well. Now, we hadn't set up syncs for deals yet. So if we go back into our settings, integrations and apps, we can go back into Zoho CRM. And this time we're going to go into new sync, and we're going to sync our contacts. This time we're going to create a new list because we don't have a list here. So let's quickly go back and just create our list very quickly. So let's do that now. So we're going to call it webinar CRM contacts. Oh, I can't type today. There we go. I'm going to hit save and proceed. Then once we've done that, we're going to go back into our sync settings and we're going to sync. Now, sometimes people get caught out from this. Zoho Marketing Automation works a bit different from Zoho CRM. Zoho CRM, you have your leads module, your contacts module, your accounts module, your deals module, etc. Marketing automation is a bit simpler, and it merges some of that data together. So when I sync contacts, which is what I'm going to do now, I'm just going to quickly fill in all the details here as we did previously. I'm going to say again, legitimate interest, update empty fields, exclude, exclude. Now, when I set up the sync for contacts, what I will do is I will also sync data from the accounts and the deals module at the same time. So the contact sync sort of encapsulates the accounts and the deal sync together. Now, why this is important is it means I can then do segments based on contacts that have deals at certain stages or over certain values, because all of that information is then syncing to the contacts. So again, I'm going to initiate that sync, and we'll come back to this in a little bit, where we'll also build out a couple more advanced segments as well to show how we can use that deal data. Is this all making sense so far to everybody? Is there any questions or anything that anybody wants to raise? If you do, please do use the chat and the Q&A, and I will answer questions as we go. Hopefully, is my audio and visual okay? Is everyone okay to see everything? Is everything working well? Just gives me a chance to have a drink. Perfect. I'm seeing some thumbs up, so that's a positive. Oh, look, and we even have a chat. Perfect. Yeah, all good. Okay, thank you. Brilliant. Okay, thanks, guys. We will continue on then. So, next thing, now that we have covered our segments, we're now going to go into campaigns. So, and you notice we're jumping around the sidebar a little bit here. The reason we're doing that is because some ways these aren't necessarily in the most logical order to how you'll use them. So I'm going to jump around a little bit because I'm going to do it in an order that I think makes sense. But we will cover everything by the time we get to the end of this. So we're going to go into marketing, and we're going to go into email campaigns first. Now, this bit, although it's quite important, I'm going to probably fly over to this bit quite quickly because this is the bit most people are going to be really familiar with, because most people have used some sort of email builder before. So I'm not going to spend too much time sort of going over things everybody will already know, because there's far more useful things you might not know within marketing automation. So I'm going to go into create. I'm going to create a marketing campaign. So again, I'm going to call it webinar email. And I have to choose a topic. So this is where topics become important again. When I choose a topic, if I send this, even if I send this to a list or a segment that contains a person, if that person doesn't have an opt-in for that topic, they will not receive the email. So I'm going to say newsletter and hit next. And you can then choose your newsletter, your email type. Now, I pretty much always go for simple mail. Effectively, these other types have sort of integrations with some other Zoho apps, but actually what you can do with these, you can do in a simple email anyway. So for the most part, I always choose the simple email. So we'll select that and hit next. Now this screen is pretty self-explanatory. We're going to go through and add who we're sending the email to. Now, when we do that, we can choose to send it to a whole list, a whole segment, based on tags or based on a custom criteria. For the most part, you're probably going to do the first two options. Tags are useful when we come to journeys a little bit later, and custom functions are useful if you want to do a one-time email to very specific people. What I will say though is the custom option is exactly the same builder as when you build a segment. So generally, if I feel like I need to do something custom, I would still build it as a segment. And part of the reason for that is you can see who's in a segment before you send an email, whereas you can't see who's in the custom criteria. It'll just give you a number, not a specific list. So my advice would be to always really use a segment. So we will choose segment, and we'll go in and choose our leads in ASP segment, and we'll select that. We can select multiple segments here if you want as well. So prime example, when we send out emails, we've got a segment for active customers, active prospects, and opted in leads. So we will send quite often to all three of those segments at once. But sometimes it might be that we've got an internal update going on that's only relevant to active customers, for example. So we'll select just that one segment. Now, we can also exclude specific contacts here as well. Now, this is quite useful if you've got a segment you use all the time, but you're doing a campaign where you just need to exclude a specific group of people. I'll give you an example of this. When we do updates to our project management system, ClickUp, we communicate that with our clients through a marketing campaign to all of our different active clients. Now, just one client uses a different system to ClickUp, which is quite annoying, but none of them are on this call, so they won't know. So what we do when I'm sending an email about ClickUp, I will go in and I will say exclude contacts where the contact email contains, I'll do it client123, for example, .com. And that way I haven't got to build a segment just for those one-off emails. I can use my main segment and just take a couple of people out based on what I need to do. So different options there in terms of how you can manage that. So we'll go with this and hit save. We can then go in and add our subject. Our subject is obviously what shows up in the subject line of an email. We can also personalize it and mail merge in different information. So if I want to pull through, for example, their country, I can do that if we want to into the subject. I can also add a pre-header. The pre-header is the sort of preview of an email you see just below the subject in Outlook. I will say this is becoming less relevant in the world of AI because a lot of email providers now are starting to give you AI summaries in that spot. So the email header is kind of being pushed out. But there are still platforms that support it, so it's useful to use just to give a little bit more of extra context. And again, you can mail merge in different details in there as well. Hit save. We will then choose our sender email. So in this case, I'm going to call it Garden Skylines, which is the name of our test company here. I will send it from my email and I'll send it the reply to mine as well. It's telling me off here because I haven't authenticated my email domain. Obviously, normally that would be done as part of setting up marketing automation. I've kind of purposely skipped over all of the in and out setup of marketing automation because I thought it was probably useful to show you how you would use it, and then we can worry about the setup later. But if that's something people would find valuable, please do comment, add a question, thumbs up, however you want to do it, to let me know, and maybe we can do a separate webinar that's more focused on the actual setup of marketing automation from scratch. But as I say, today is more around utilizing it once you've got it in place. So we've got that, we'll hit save. And then we're going to go down to add our content. Now, this is the bit where we've got quite a few different options. So the first section you'll see is the My Template section. And we'll go through how to add templates here in a little while. You've then got the template gallery. These are all email templates generated by Zoho. These are actually much better than they used to be. Years ago, I used to always joke that you'd go in here and they were horrendously badly designed, some of them. But these days, they're not too bad. But realistically, they're probably not going to suit your brand because they're very they're very generic and not catered towards your brand style. So you're more likely to either go into layout and build a drag and drop email or use the build your own. Now we're going to touch on all of these, but very quickly. So with the layout, we can go in and use the template. And this is where you kind of get your MailChimp-like editor, where you're able to go in, drag in elements. So I can put in a title, I can add images, all of that kind of stuff that you would expect. Now, I am not a designer, so this is probably not going to look particularly amazing, but we'll whip something together very quickly. So we'll put in that's actually our old logo now, so I need to update that. We can put in buttons, all of that kind of stuff that you would expect. Now, I'll give you a couple of tricks here that are really, really useful, that are a little bit more power user. So let's say I spend ages designing a button. I make sure it's the right color for my brand. I make sure it's got the right text on it. I get the right width and the right height and all of that kind of stuff. And I make a button and I'm really happy with how that button looks. Now I want to use that button in all of my future email campaigns. What I can do, and lots of people miss this, and it's quite often the thing that when I'm doing client training, they see it and they're like, this is the best thing you've shown me. When you mouse over the button, you can hit the little cog icon and you can hit the star. That will add it to your favorite. So I can call this green button, hit save. Oh, I've already created a green button, amazingly. Oh, there we go. It's just been a bit slow. Now, I can go into my little favorites menu, and whenever I want to use a green button, I now just drag that in from my bookmarks, and it's automatically there. And this persists across multiple campaigns as well. So you may create the green button in this campaign. 6 weeks later, you're working on a completely different campaign, and you can drag the green button in. And it's not limited to buttons. You can do it on any of the different content here. You can do it on text, images, links, footers, videos, anything that you want can be saved into that bookmark section. So I really recommend, particularly if you're like a marketing manager or you're trying to manage brand design and things like that, build out a little group of templates that you can put into bookmarks so that when people are building new campaigns, they can just drag in the elements so they match your style. Makes things much easier for the people making the emails, makes things much more consistent. And it's just a really useful tool that most people just miss is there entirely because it's quite hidden away on the sidebar. The other thing we can do in here is we can do dynamic content. And again, this is a section a lot of people miss, but I think it's really, really powerful. So dynamic content allows us to add a whole section to an email that's only shown based on a criteria. So if I click into here, I can set my criteria. You can see it's pulled through all of my different fields in here. I'm going to go into industry, and I'm going to say if my industry is, and then I'll put in whatever our industry was that we used earlier. Let's find one in here. There we go, that's the one I think. Let's copy that industry, and I'll put that in there. Hit apply. Now, you can see I've got that blue dotted outline here. Now, only people with the industry that I've put in will get the bit of email with that blue dotted outline. Now, I can add multiple dynamic blocks. So what I could do if I wanted to is add a dynamic block for each of the main industries that I cater to. Then all I'm doing is creating one email. So it'd have one header, one top bit, but the content in the middle could be different based on what industry somebody's interested in or what industry somebody works in. So you're building one email, but the people getting it are getting something that's personalized and almost bespoke to them because they're just getting the content that's relevant to them. Now, dynamic content can be text, it can also be images, and it can also be buttons as well. So, for example, if you were running a promotion and maybe you've got some VIP customers that you've tagged in the CRM, you could have a button that only shows for VIP customers that gives them 20% off, opposed to the regular button that gives you 10% off, for example. And again, it's one email that you're creating, but your recipients are getting something that's bespoke to them. I'll give you an example of how we're starting to use this as part of our big sort of rebranding and everything like that to sort of update things and make things look a bit more professional. We're going to start sending out more Zoho newsletters. Now, we know, particularly for our clients, not every client uses every Zoho app, but we do know which ones they do use. So, what we can do is create a single newsletter with dynamic content blocks for each of the different apps. So, when clients get the email, they just get the content that's relevant to them. So, a really, really powerful tool. MailChimp has this feature, but to use this at MailChimp, you need their like mega expensive highest end plan. This is one of the like more basic features in marketing automation. So just the cost benefit of having this is amazing because it just saves so much time and gives you so much flexibility. There's other tools in here as well. You can of course actually add attachments. You can do ICS files so people have calendar links, and you can insert custom HTML in here as well. But I'm going to skip over the rest of this because I think most of this now is drag and drop, and I think people here are probably going to be comfortable with that without me going through every individual block. What I wanted to do though was just run through a couple of the other template options because there's a couple of things in here people miss. So the other thing you can do is build a HTML email. So this is where you basically write code like you would a website to build a completely bespoke email. Now, not everybody can write code, and that's absolutely fine. I'm not suggesting people can. However, AI is very, very good at writing code. So I've just swiped across my screen here, and this is we use Claude internally, but ChatGPT can do this as well. I've just given a really simple prompt to say generate a HTML email template that I can send out to new clients telling them about Limitless IT Consultancy. I'll include a link to our website below. The HTML email template should match the styling of our website. If I scroll down, it's giving me a whole block of code. Now, I'm not going to read this. I don't really know what that means. So I'm going to copy it, and I'm going to go into the HTML editor. I'm then going to go in and click the little edit button, so edit HTML, and I'm just going to paste this in and hit insert. And all of a sudden, you can see we have quite a nice looking email that looks almost identical in branding and design to our new website. Looks like it hasn't pulled through the image. That's fine. We can deal with that. But I really recommend looking into this. Using AI to generate HTML emails has been a real shortcut for us in a lot of the new stuff we're doing, particularly because it can make stuff that's such high quality. Now, I'm going to do a live test here. I don't know how this is going to go because I think showing you something that I've already created isn't as fun. So what we're going to do, we have over here a website for Garden Skylines, which is our test fake business. Now, this whole website is actually built with AI. I spent about 20 minutes on Saturday and built this website using an AI tool. Again, if you're interested in a webinar specifically about different AI tools that we're using at Limitless, let me know because I'd be more than happy to do one because there's some really interesting stuff happening right now. But you can see this has quite a different design to what Limitless has. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy that URL. I'm going to go into Claude and I'm just going to dictate to it just so I don't have to type for very long. Create an email for my business Garden Skylines. Use the website below as a template and then we will insert content into the email afterwards. The email should be a welcome email to new customers telling them about the great services we offer. So I've just dictated that for simplicity. I'm going to paste the URL in there and I'm going to hit enter. Now, hopefully what Claude's going to do is go and look at our website, is going to pull out all the styling, and hopefully it will create us a nice HTML email. Now, I'm going to leave Claude to think about that for a minute or two because it might take a second, and I'm going to go back into marketing automation. Whilst we're waiting for it to generate that new HTML, the other trick I wanted to show you was the plain text email. Now, lots of people just ignore the plain text email because it sounds boring, quite frankly. But this is like a killer hidden feature of marketing automation that I think more people should use. Now, if I'm sending you guys an email, let's say we've got a couple of clients in here. We've probably got a couple of people in here that we've had sales calls with in the past and things like that. If I send you a marketing email and I send you an email that looks like it's hand typed, which are you more likely to read? You're far more likely to read the one that looks hand typed. The marketing one, quite frankly, you might delete. I certainly do it to a lot of the marketing emails I get, especially when I've got a busy inbox. I'll go through and it looks like a marketing email. I delete it before I even read it. What this allows you to do is build a automated campaign email that looks like it's handwritten. And by looks handwritten, what I mean is, you know, when you get a marketing email, it's normally sort of centered in the middle of the email page. It's got like fancy logos on it. It's got a fancy footer. This doesn't have any of that. It's left aligned like a normal email is, and it's just text. So I can go in there and say hi, and I'm going to go in and merge in the first name. You can see I've got all my different merges here. If I go in here, somewhere in here is first name, so I'm going to copy that and put it in here. So hi, first name, how are you? I just wanted to let you know we have a sale on gardening services right now. Did you still need a new gardener? Best wishes, Jake. That just looks like a normal email. So I can save and proceed that, and I can send it out as a campaign through marketing automation. So it has the benefit of being tracked and all of the other things, the good things you get from marketing automation, but it looks like a normal email. Now, I'm certainly not saying here replace all of your emails, all of your pretty marketing emails with handwritten emails, styled emails that look like this. But I think it's worth trying in your marketing campaigns. We've seen great success ourselves, and we've seen great success with many clients around having more normal looking email campaigns because people don't expect it. They expect to be sold to in a glossy email. They don't expect something that looks like it's been sent to them personally. So it's a little feature in here. A lot of people just ignore that it's there, but I wanted to highlight it because I think there's real value to it. Particularly in certain industries, maybe for B2C it's less relevant, but certainly B2B, particularly if you might already have a relationship, if they're already prospects you may have spoken to, something like this we've seen has been really successful for some of our clients. So I really suggest trying it out. Okay, so that's enough stalling. Let's scroll back and I can see, oh, let's see. So it's actually asking me some questions, which is fine. So let's say I want it to be earthy and botanical. No, just use style text for now. Warm and welcoming. Okay, so it might take another second because I didn't see that it asked us the questions, but it's going to go through. Just as Claude is generating our email, does anybody else have any questions in the Q&A? I can see we've got one here from Mark. Do you have to have footers on plain text emails? Good question. So you do. So you do have to have a certain amount of the footer information. Now, Zoho Marketing Automation, as long as you have the unsubscribe and update your profile link, will allow you to send the email. Now, what I will say is there are different rules in different countries and for different customers in terms of what other information you legally have to include. Now, what I actually often do is I just put my normal email footer in there with the unsubscribe link and the update your profile link. Because chances are you've already got an email footer on your regular emails that include stuff like your registered company address, your company number, and some of the other information that certainly in the UK you are supposed to have in all of your marketing correspondence. So My recommendation would be to use your regular email footer in the email, because then it will capture all of that information, and just add the unsubscribe and update your profile link. And they don't need to be as big as what Zoho makes it here. I haven't put one in here, so Zoho's auto added it. If I put this in here myself, it's actually much smaller. Let me just give you an example very quickly. So I'm going to go into the merge tags, and I want to merge where are they? The header and footer merge tags. So I'm just going to put the unsubscribe link there. And in fact, can I just do the unsubscribe link? I can't remember off the top of my head. There we go. So I can just put the unsubscribe in there, and you'll see it hasn't added the rest of the footer. So you've got a bit of flexibility in there, but obviously, again, make sure consult what the rules are towards certain people that you are email marketing. In the UK, there are set rules around you're meant to have an address, you're meant to have your company number. A lot of that stuff that you're used to having on like headers and things, footers in documents and things like that, you should have in an email as well. But that's true of a marketing email or a standard email ultimately. Okay, so that has bought us a bit of time, so thank you, Mark. And we can see this has now generated us an email template. I've no idea what this is going to look like, so I'm hoping it doesn't look awful. So we're going to copy this. We're going to go in. We're just going to delete this template we've made here. Going to add content, build your own HTML, insert the code, and insert. And actually, that looks pretty nice. That actually looks really good. I really like that. And what I like about this is you could get to this with the drag and drop editor in marketing automation, but it would take you a long time. And the other thing is it requires you to have that design skill. Now, I suspect on this call, and I recognize some of the names on here, some of the people on this call I know are marketing people. But just because you're a marketing person doesn't necessarily mean you're a designer. And I know lots of marketing people that are incredible marketers that rely on having to work with other people to do designs, and that can sometimes create a bottleneck. Using something like an AI service to help you generate these emails quickly can be a really effective way to have much nicer looking emails without it adding to delay or cost or anything like that. So again, another real recommendation for me here is try out some of these AI tools for generating email campaigns. Of course, what we could do here is if I didn't like this, I can actually go back to Claude and say, hey, I don't like this bit, and this bit. Can you change it? And it would do it for me as well. So really useful tool for that kind of thing. So that is an email campaign. We will move on now to our WhatsApp campaigns. I'm going to skip over SMS purposely, but we will come back to that in a moment. So one of the other things you can do in marketing automation is create WhatsApp campaigns. Now, WhatsApp campaigns are a little bit different from email campaigns because WhatsApp, or Meta, the company that owns WhatsApp, that also owns Facebook, has quite strict rules in what you can do in WhatsApp. You can't just create an email, you can't just create a WhatsApp template and send it out. There's a process with WhatsApp where Meta must approve your templates. So the way this works is if I go in here and create a campaign for WhatsApp, I have to give it a name like I normally would. So I'm going to call it demo, hit save and proceed. Again, I'm going to choose who I'm sending this to. It's exactly the same as when I do an email now. So I'm going to go in and choose my segment and hit save. I then have to choose who I'm sending it from. And when I go into here, it's going to come up, and in theory, it should have your phone number. For some reason, mine hasn't pulled through. We've got a test account for this system because obviously it's quite difficult to actually have a fake WhatsApp. Meta make it incredibly difficult to have a fake WhatsApp, partially to try and prevent spam. But what you would do once you have your WhatsApp connected, you would see your WhatsApp numbers here and you would select the one that you want. And then what you do is you create your content. Now, a WhatsApp template is a little bit more limited. So when I create my WhatsApp template, again, I'm going to call it demo. I choose my language. The reason you have to choose a language is because WhatsApp then knows how to review and approve that template, and hit proceed. You can then see on the right hand side of the screen, I get a preview of what my WhatsApp message is going to look like. And on the left hand side, I can go through and fill in the details. Now, some are optional, some are required. So the header might be something like I can do text, image, video, document, etc. In this case, it might be text. It might be new sale now on. Hit save. Oh, it doesn't like my emoji. It's like not my emoji. It doesn't like my exclamation mark. So I can put that in there. I can then put in all of my details. There we go. So fill out my content, hit save, that then goes in. I can then add a footer if I want to, and I can also add a button. So the button could be to call, it could be a URL, or it could be a quick reply. In my case, I'm going to say it's a URL. I'm just going to choose the URL of this page, and I'm going to put, oh, this page is actually too long a URL, which isn't very helpful. So let's just get rid of the end bit. There we go. And I'm going to give the button a name of open sale. Hit save. And that's then a preview of what my WhatsApp message would look like. What I then do is I send that for review. That then goes to Zoho, well, it actually goes to Meta to review that template to prove that it's a real marketing template. Once they've reviewed and approved that template, you're then able to use that in your campaign. Until they approve it, you won't be able to send your campaign. Now, my experience working with clients is generally that approval process is pretty quick. Quite often we see it to be like 15 to 30 minutes, but it can take longer on occasion, particularly around busy sales periods. So we've noticed that on the lead up to Black Friday, this process tends to slow down, presumably because Meta's got a load of Black Friday sales messaging they're approving for all of the different people that use WhatsApp. I'll give you a really good example of the kind of way this can be used in the UK. Next, the clothes shop. I'm sure most people in the UK know who Next are. They do a really clever marketing tactic where whenever they do a sale, if you've ever bought something from them in the past, you're entered into their VIP list. And depending on how many different things you've done with them will depend how much of a VIP you are. I think they offer a credit card. If you get their credit card, you're like the most VIP you can be. So then when they run in sale, they use a lot of SMS marketing, but WhatsApp marketing, email marketing, that basically then invites people into the sale over time. And it then ends up starting to feel a lot more personal, particularly with the use of SMS and WhatsApp to invite people to join the sale. So they use segments to bunch people into the different types of VIP and then they invite them over time. So it sort of almost gives you that like fear of missing out, particularly because they start messaging you to tell you, hey, your slot's going to start tomorrow. Don't miss out. If you miss it, you might not get anything. And that's the perfect use for these kinds of like fast-paced real-time notifications. Now, interestingly, we've also seen WhatsApp can work well in both B2B and B2B, B2C and B2B environments. A lot of people think of WhatsApp as purely like a B2C type marketing tool. But we're working with a client at the moment that uses a B2B environment and it's worked really, really effectively. I think part of the reason it's working effectively is because it's not typical to do it, so it stands out a little bit. But the other thing you can do is use this in combination with email campaigns. So mix and match them, and we're going to show you more of that within journeys in just a moment. So once that template's been approved, you would then get the option to be able to send this out. As you can see, I don't have that right now, but you would then get the option to send that. And once it's sent, you would get the normal reporting to be able to see how many people it's been sent to, etc. SMS is very similar. Now, I haven't set up SMS here because SMS is a little bit more complicated. Marketing automation does have a built-in SMS tool, but it's very limited right now. It only works in the US, Canada, and India. So unfortunately, us in the UK are a little bit left out. There are other ways you can connect to SMS though. So we quite often use a third-party service called Twilio that allows you to purchase a number and connect it to marketing automation to do SMS marketing. The SMS marketing looks almost identical to what we did in WhatsApp, although it's actually got slightly fewer options because you don't have like a header and things like that in a normal text message. What I will say, particularly in the UK, WhatsApp marketing tends to perform much better for our clients than SMS marketing. I think most people I can see on the call here, I think are UK based. And I would imagine all of you probably have a WhatsApp number. It's not the same in every country. In the US, WhatsApp isn't as popular and doesn't perform quite as well. In the US, we found that SMS can work better. But it's worth knowing you have both options. And again, you can mix and match it. So when you're doing journeys, you could have a journey that has an SMS, a WhatsApp, and an email if you wanted to. So you've got a lot of flexibility there. The final part of campaigns that we're going to talk about right now is social. And really, my rule with Zoho, with the social element, is I probably wouldn't use it if I'm honest. Zoho has a standalone tool called Zoho Social. Zoho Social is an email marketing scheduling tool. It shows you analytics of your marketing platforms. It also allows you to schedule marketing posts across lots of different things. So you can schedule posts on LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, uh, YouTube, all sorts of different things. Now, that's a much more full-featured tool. So my advice would be probably actually not to use the social stuff within marketing automation because it's very basic. That said, if you're on Zoho One or on Zoho Marketing Plus, so if you're using either of those two bundles, Zoho Social's included. So there's no additional cost to use that tool, which is part of the reason why I recommend it, because 90% of the clients I work with are already paying for it. And it's just much, much more full featured than the social stuff that's built in to marketing automation. So that's it on basic campaigns. The next thing is journeys. Before I move on, does anybody have any other questions on journeys? I appreciate we're rapidly getting through our 90 minutes together, but there's still a lot to cover. But if anyone has any questions, please feel free to post them now. No, perfect. Okay, that is all good. So we're going to go into the journeys tab, which is probably my favorite part of Zoho Marketing Automation. So a journey is a way of creating a sequence of emails, WhatsApps, SMS that are triggered based on different things. Now, my thinking normally is a campaign is a one-off thing. You have to put a lot of time and effort into building that one-time campaign, and you're only sending it once, which is a lot of work to do for something that you're just going to send once. The advantage of a journey is it takes a bit longer to build, but you're benefiting from that journey almost infinitely because you can keep it running over time. So we're going to go in and build a basic journey together now. So I'm going to call it webinar. I'm going to hit next. And you can see there's quite a few different journey templates in here. You can switch between the different groups. Now, these are actually quite good starting points. Now, I'm going to jump straight into start from scratch, but if you've not done a journey before, when you log into marketing automation, I recommend going through some of these because they may well give you some good ideas as to where you can start utilizing Zoho marketing automation journeys. But I'm going to go in and start from scratch. We're going to click in. Now, on the left-hand side, we've got a section here where we can choose all of the different things we want to do. The first thing we want to do with a journey is we want to have a trigger. How does somebody get into this automated journey? Now, the trigger I use most often is somebody added to a segment. And as we discussed earlier on in the webinar, a segment's where you set up almost like a filter or criteria, and then people automatically move into that segment when they match the criteria. Well, what this means is not only will they automatically move into the segment, they can automatically enter the journey as well. So we're going to go in and we're going to say, okay, anybody that enters our leads in ASP segment is going to start getting these, it's going to enter this journey. Now, when I do this, I get a couple of options. I can choose to allow entry for existing and new contacts, allow entry for contacts only from now, or allow only for contacts that are already in the segment. I'm going to allow for existing and new, which basically means anyone that's already there will go into the journey right away, and anybody added from now will go into the journey as soon as they enter the segment. So I'm going to hit save, and that then goes into our first block. From here, I can go in and start building out the process and actions. So it might be the very first thing I want to happen when they enter that segment is I might want to send them an email. So I'm going to link that up. So I'm going to drag the send email. I'm going to link those together, and I'm going to go in and hit create campaign. Now, this is exactly the same as when we create a standalone campaign. I'm going to choose the campaign name, enter the topic. I'm going to choose simple email. I'm going to put in the subject. I'm going to choose the from address. Oh, let's call it Garden Skylines. I'm going to choose the email, the reply to, and then again, I'm going to add my content. And what I might do is just go across into here and copy this nice HTML that it generated for us earlier. And I might use that because it looks really good. Hit save and proceed. And there we go. We now have a lovely email there. Now, I didn't cover this earlier. Whenever you create an email campaign in marketing automation, this is whether it's a journey or a one-time campaign, you'll need to send for review. What that basically means is Zoho's going to check that email to make sure it's not spam. This dates back to many years ago. Zoho used to have quite a big problem with spam because their marketing platform is much cheaper than the competitor. It became a tool of choice for people sending spam emails, so they're now very strict on that. Now, once your Zoho system's built up some trust, that send for approval is almost instant. My assumption is it's completely automated. But initially, if you're brand new to marketing automation, it can sometimes take 15, 20 minutes, half an hour for that approval to happen because it is being reviewed by a person to make sure it isn't spam. So I'm going to save and exit. So now I've got someone's entered into the journey. They will now immediately be sent that email campaign. Now, it might also be, this is really important, let's also send them a WhatsApp. So I'm going to drag that in here, and now I'm going to send them a WhatsApp. So again, when I click into here, this is going to be exactly the same process where I'm going to go in, I'm going to configure my WhatsApp exactly like I did a moment ago. I won't go through all those steps again, just for the purposes of time. So now someone's entered the journey, they get email 1, they get WhatsApp 1. Now, we don't want to bombard them, so what we might want to say is, okay, let's now wait. So let's now give it a week. So I'm going to put in a time delay. I'm going to join those up. I'm going to put that in. Oh, when it wants to join, there we go. And I'm now going to say, okay, give it 7 days. Let's see what happens. You can see when I do that, I can choose which days to trigger this on as well. So if it's B2B and I don't want emails to go out on the weekend, if I make sure those are unticked, which they are by default, emails won't go out on the weekend, which means even if someone goes into the journey on a Saturday, so 7 days would be the following Saturday, it will roll over and the email will go out on the Monday. So I'm going to hit save, and that is now in there. So now I've got entered the segment, the email, the WhatsApp, a 7-day delay. From here, I can now go in and do whatever I want to add into here next. So I can go in and say, maybe I want to, let's say potentially I want to see what they do with the email. So I'm going to go into process and I'm going to check email activity. And I'm going to link this up. Now this is where I can start getting clever because I've sent them an email a week ago. Now in the journey, what I'm going to do is going to say, okay, well, if they have, I'm going to find my journey email here. So webinar 1, that's my journey email. If they have opened, or let's say they've clicked any link, they've opened or it's been delivered, hit save. That's going to give me now 3 branches. So I can now choose what happens next based on what they did with the email. So let's say if they clicked a link, we might be saying, oh, do you know what, they're quite engaged here. Let's flag this with the sales team to give them a call. So what I can do is actually go into actions and I can say I'm going to create a task, and this actually creates a task in the CRM. So this is where marketing automation and the CRM start to talk to each other and where you can start sort of linking the marketing activity to the sales activity. So I can go in and configure this to say, okay, let's create a task. In this case, it's going to leads, so it's going to be in the leads module. I'm going to call the task callback lead after MA journey. I have to give it a description, so I'll pop that in there. And I have to put in a due date, so I'm going to say the active. So I'm going to say 3 days after the task is created, it needs to be due. And I can put an assignee. So I'm going to assign a task to existing CRM owner. What that will mean is whoever owns that record in the CRM will get the task. So if you've got account managers in the CRM that own certain leads, this task will be created for that account manager. And I can hit save. It's going to ask me, pop up now and ask me just to connect a couple of fields that I haven't connected when I initially did the sync earlier. I won't worry about that too much right now, but you would just need to map the different statuses in here. This is all pretty self-explanatory. Oh, that's why we don't have that particular field in the CRM. I'll just map it to the wrong one for now. There we go. So we've now got that in here. So if a link is clicked after 7 days, it's going to create a task. If they've opened it, but they've not clicked a link, maybe there's more we can do here. So maybe we'll send them an additional email. So I'm going to put that in here. And if it's delivered, but they've not opened it, maybe they're not that engaged, maybe it didn't quite grab their attention. So what we might do for these people is we might actually loop it back round and send the email again. Or if we want to be simple, we can actually just clone the email block up here, which is what I do quite a lot, just because it makes it flow quite nicely. So I can clone that block and I can put it in there. So now if it's delivered but they don't open it, we're going to send them the same email again. And what we might do is we might actually put an await condition in there, or we might actually put a time delay in there. Sorry, not a wait condition. To say, okay, after another 7 days, pop that in there. And if I unconnect that, I can put in a merge in the process. I can merge two different paths together. And I can say, okay, after 7 days, we're just going to move on to the second email. And if it's opened here, again, we're going to merge that back in and move on to that next email. And I can keep building out this tree. Now, one of my favorite ways to start with a journey is a lead sequence. And what that might look like is somebody has filled in a newsletter form or a contact us form on the website. So what we do is set up a journey that either over a number of weeks or a number of days sends an email every couple of days or every week or so, telling them a bit more about us as a company. It's a way to keep you sort of top of mind to your leads, but again, you're building it once, and then leads are benefiting from it forevermore without you having to keep creating new content. So journeys for me are the real power tool of marketing automation, and are often overlooked. I think people get a bit scared, a bit overwhelmed by journeys, but they're a really, really powerful tool. And once you start to get the hang of the different options you've got in here, it can work really nicely. So just a couple of things on here that we haven't mentioned yet. You can use multiple triggers. So you can see there's lots of different triggers in here. I can have multiple triggers for one journey. So it might be that this journey is triggered by them entering a segment, and it might also be it's also triggered by them, I don't know, receiving a certain email also triggers the same journey. So I can have multiple triggers here and I can mix and match them. Under actions, there's lots of different ways I can do actions in here, including things like adding and removing people from lists, updating the lead score, which isn't something we've already spoken about today, and probably is something for another video, but there is a lead scoring tool within marketing automation which allows you to score leads based on their email engagement. We've also got in here things like sending internal emails. So if someone engages with something, you could notify a person over email that they've engaged with something. And then different options for time delays and even webhooks. Webhooks are particularly powerful if you have a custom website or something like that, or a custom application that you want to integrate email marketing with. A prime example of this is we used a webhook trigger, there you go, an open trigger, with a customer that has a custom finance tool. And the way it works is when someone signs up for a trial of the custom finance tool, that uses the open trigger to enter them directly into the journey. They then go into a sequence of emails, and then once they get the final email, that sends a trigger back using webhook back to the custom finance tool to say, hey, they've completed the journey. So then the finance tool knows that they've completed the journey, and it can then do different things in app as well. So lots of more advanced ways to use this, but hopefully this gives you a good starting point. Is this making sense? Does anyone have any specific questions around journeys or anything like that that they would like me to run through or demo? No, if everyone's happy, that is all good. Although I realise I'm in the Q&A and neglecting chat, so let me pop into the chat. No, we're all good in chat as well, which is good. Perfect. Oh, I can see I've got one in here. How would I add a tag at one stage? Good question. So what you might want to do, for example, is say if somebody has clicked a link, what you can do is you can go in and, where is the option in here? Assign tag. And then you can build that into the workflow just like that. So then I can assign them a tag, test, hit save. And then in future, I can use that tag in to either have people enter additional journeys, or when I'm building individual campaigns, I can use that tag as part of building that campaign and then who that campaign is going to go to. Does that answer your question, Mark? Perfect. Yeah, I can see a thumbs up, which is perfect. Cool. Okay, so moving on from our journeys. So I'm going to just save that just in case we come back to it later when we go into any more questions. The final big part of marketing automation is the bit that's often overlooked by people, and it's the website integration. So this is something that makes marketing automation a little bit unique because not many marketing tools, particularly email marketing tools, have any kind of complex integration with the website. But marketing automation actually has quite a lot, and people just kind of ignore it from a lot of my experience. So to get this set up is really simple. All you need to do is if I go into settings and web, you get a little tracking code that needs to be added to the header of your website. Now, this does leave a cookie, so obviously with your cookie policy and things like that, you just want to make sure that's updated to align to this additional tracking. Much like if you were to add Google Analytics, you need to make sure your cookie policy includes that. It's the same thing here because it's another kind of analytical tracking tool. But once that's added to your website, there's a couple of things you get. The first thing you get is website analytics. So this is just like Google Analytics in that it's tracking number of visitors, page views, all of that kind of information. So if I show you this, so I'm going to show you total visitors. This is all on our test site here, Garden Skylines. And you can see our number of visitors here. This was on Saturday. That was almost certainly me and me messing around on different devices, getting this up and running to make sure that was all good, ready for our presentation today. And you can see I visited it a couple of times today as well. So it gives you some really basic tracking. Now, I will say what I like about this tracking is since Google Analytics updated to, I want to say GA4, but I'm not a Google Analytics expert, I find it incredibly confusing to use. I have no doubt for the marketeers in the audience, it is amazing and it's got loads of data that's probably really, really helpful. For me as a non-marketeer, I look at it and I get a little bit concerned that there's just too much information and nothing telling me what any of it means. This is in a way perfect for me because it's got all of the key metrics I care about, but with less of the noise of marketing automation. I don't feel like I need to be as Google Analytics expert to be able to understand this. So you've got your stats over time, you've got your sessions and things like that, all that kind of basic information that you'd expect. I've also got things like behaviors, so I can see like entry pages, exit pages. Again, all really simple information here to be able to understand what's happening on the website. You can see most people exit on the homepage. I've also got acquisition in here, so I can look at what sources traffic is coming from. So I can see most of mine's coming from direct, some of it's coming from Lovable, which is the AI building service that we're using. So a lot of that key metric information. Now, one thing I will caveat this with, because sometimes I run into this, is don't be tempted to cross-reference numbers one-to-one between Google Analytics and Zoho Analytics. The reason for that is because a visitor is very difficult to define, and each platform will have different ways of defining what a visitor is. Is it as they returned within X time? Is it if they're all within one browsing session? Is it with across multiple days? There's all those kinds of questions. The most important thing is that they align in sort of trends. If the trends are completely different, that probably tells you that one of the two isn't implemented or isn't tracking quite correctly. But exact numbers you will expect to be a little bit different just because there's different ways of measuring the same bit of information. But again, a really, really helpful tool to be able to just see what's happening on your website. The other thing you'll notice here is you have this concept of a known visitor and an anonymous visitor. Now, what marketing automation is doing that's very clever is if you send somebody an email and they click a link on that email to go to your website, well, marketing automation knows who that person is because they clicked a link from your email. So that will then move them into the known visitor camp. Um, Over time, you'll have more and more known visitors as you do more marketing automation. Now, what's really clever is once someone's a known visitor, so let's say I send an email through marketing automation to my colleague Alice. Alice clicks the link, she goes onto the website. That then means the website can track Alice in terms of what she's doing, but the website also knows that it is Alice. It's not just a random person it's tracking, it knows that that's Alice that's on the website right now doing these different things. What that means is I can set up goals. So it might be somebody filling in a form, it might be them visiting a certain page. So I can then start to see, well, Alice went to the website after clicking on that link, and this is what Alice did. She reached this goal directly from that email campaign. Now, there's a couple of ways to create goals. So the simplest way is it's just to track a certain page being loaded. So let's say we're going to do it on the contact us page. I'm going to paste that in and we're going to make that a goal. Oh, let me do that correctly. Let's call it contact us. Hit next. URL to track Oh, and simple. There we go. Pop all that in. And we're not going to worry about any response actions for now. So that now, if I send an email to somebody, they become a known visitor, and then they go to our contact us page, that will then track that as it will actually be a conversion. So in the real world, you'll probably put it on like the thank you page, but just for demonstration's sake here, it's on the contact us page. So we then know that that person completed that goal off the back of that campaign. Now, what we can also do in our response actions, and this comes back to a question Mark asked a moment ago, we can do things like assign a tag. So what I might then do is assign a tag to say they have been to the contact us page. And this is where everything starts to come a little bit full circle, and there's a reason I did this bit last. Because now they've got that tag that they've been to the contact us page, that could then enter them into a new journey to say, hey, you visited our contact page, you're clearly interested in talking to us, here's some great things you should know about us. So because we've initially engaged them, they've clicked through to our website, they become a known visitor. We can then track what they do on the website with our goals. And then once they hit those goals, we can then trigger additional journeys that then do more things. And because marketing automation is connected to our CRM, we can get really sophisticated. We can say, well, Alice has got to the contact us page, but actually I can see she already has a deal open in our CRM. So actually, she's not going to get this journey because actually she's already talking to somebody. But if Greg clicks on the link, he doesn't have a deal in the CRM. So actually, we should probably follow up with him. He will go into a journey and that will then start sending him emails. And again, just like the journey we made a minute ago, we can include stuff like creating tasks in the CRM, WhatsApp messages, text messages, all sorts of things like that. An example of this is I was doing some browsing a couple of weeks ago. I got an email from, I think it was Toyota, about some new local deals to me. Um, I clicked on the link on the Toyota email. I went through, I was browsing their website. I looked at a couple of the cars. The following day, I got a phone call from Toyota saying, hey, Jake, and there's a Toyota garage down the road that we've got a car from previously. The guy knows who I am. Hey, Jake, I seen you were looking at this car. I know your car's coming up to the end of its finance. Do you want us to book you in for a test drive? And that was all achieved through the kind of thing we're showing off here. So, you know, Toyota's a massive, sophisticated company, but we can achieve this within Zoho because we can do that tracking. We can do that linking the information together to see exactly what somebody's doing to then build more information off of it. I can see we've got a question here. Where can we review reporting for journeys? I created an automation in Zoho Campaigns, but I'm unable to see the results. We'll touch on reporting in just a moment because that's a little bit more difficult for me to show here, but I will show you an example of what that reporting looks like. So bear with me on that one. But it is absolutely possible in marketing automation. So that's then our response action for that website journey. I can also, or sorry, that's the response action for that website goal. I can also jump in back into journeys. I can go into create. In fact, I won't create a new one. What I will do is I will use the one we created a moment ago. And I can go into here and you can see some of the triggers I've got here are page visit. So I can also trigger based on somebody visiting a certain page. And what I really like is I can do it based on number of times. Because somebody visiting the contact us page or the pricing page once might not mean anything. But if they go back to our pricing page 5 times, do you know, they probably are quite interested in our pricing. Let's enter them into the journey. So again, it's another way of tying all of this information together. And I think this website integration is so often the missing link for people. Lots of clients, they know they do campaigns without my help. They don't need me to be able to explain campaigns. They're pretty straightforward. Sometimes then we push them towards using journeys. But where the real magic is once you get those website integration connected, because then it all comes full circle. You've got that full tracking of everything a client's doing. So those goals are really important. And again, what it means is unlike using another email product where you send an email and you're measuring that email on arbitrary things like open rate and click rate, which by the way, these days are not perfect at all. Like if you have an iPhone, your iPhone will automatically scan and open every email you get for a security thing. That open rate is kind of irrelevant these days. But if you can see someone click the link and then went and did something on your website, that's a far more reliable way to be able to measure the real value of those email campaigns that you're sending out. So really, really useful. The other thing we've got in here, which I love, is the smart URLs. So smart URLs allow you to create a specific URL for a specific campaign. And this is particularly useful if you're doing anything that's printed. So I'll tell you where we use this is we use this for business cards. Oh, once again, I can't spell or type today. So let's say I'm creating a business card that's going to go to our homepage. I'm going to pop that in there. I'm going to say the source is, I don't know if I have business card in here. We'll say the source is flyer. I can give it a campaign name. So let's say I've got a specific business card. We're going to Zoholics US next month. So let's say I've got a business card for Zoholics US. I can put different things in here. I can leave the short key as it is. Save. And what that will do is it'll generate me a full URL with all the tracking parameters. So you can see it's got all of my UTM attributes and things like that, which is really important for tracking leads and where they come from when they fill in forms. But it also has a shortened URL and a QR code. So we're just getting new business cards printed. We are going to Zoholics US next month. So we've just done this to create a unique business card. So when we go next month, we'll give people business cards and it has a special QR code on it and it actually has a special shortened URL. So then we know people we hand out those business cards to, if they come to our website then and book meetings, I know exactly where they came from. So it can be a really useful tool. If you've got like vans that go out and you want to put a QR code on your van, again, an ideal way to track that. And what you'll see then is that starts to generate reporting, so you can see how many times how many times a business card, the link has been clicked, and start understanding what's going on with that data. So again, a really, really useful tool to be able to see what's happening on your website. But there's even better bits, particularly for marketeers in the crowd that don't necessarily have all the web development experience in the world or don't have access to web developers easily. And that's where we're going to get into the very final part of our demo today. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to pop up to lead generation. I told you we were going to do this in a funny order. And we're going to look at sign up forms. So let's say you want to create a form for your website that you're going to embed on your website. Sign up forms allow you to create, so we'll say contact us, allow you to create very easily a form that can sit on your website. And you can see there's different forms in here. Now, sometimes this can raise the question because Zoho has lots of ways you can build a form. There's forms in CRM, there's an app called Zoho Forms, there's Zoho Surveys, there's forms here, there's forms in other apps as well. Typically, I would use this form for creating like a newsletter sign up form or something like that. Now, there's a lot of different templates in here that you can choose. You can then customize the design, all the kinds of things that you'd expect from a form builder. When you're ready to go, you can save. And then what you do is you can choose when someone signs up for this form, what topics do they get? If there's any response actions, this is the same as when they hit their goal we spoke about earlier, where we can assign a tag. We can also do stuff like add them to a list, add them to a journey and things like that. And we can also choose to push them to the CRM. And when I launch that, that's then going to give us a bit of code that we can put on our website. I'll give you an example of this here. If I scroll down to our footer, here's one, be it not very well styled because I added it very quickly, to sign up for our newsletter. And when someone fills this in, they then automatically show up in marketing automation. And if I go into contacts, I can then see who has signed up through this form. Now, this is the most boring one of the things I'm going to show you now because most people already have a solution for a form on the website. What's really helpful though is the next couple of things we're going to look at. So the next thing we're going to look at is a sign up pop-up. So a sign up pop-up's a little bit more powerful. So I'm going to give this a name. I'm going to call this demo for webinar. And I'm going to give it a preview URL. So let's say we're going to do this on the About Us page. I'm going to copy that and put it on here. Hit next. You can see there's loads of different templates here and different template styles. So I can do pop-up, slide in, banner, full screen, however I want to do it. Let's say we're going to do a, let's do a pop-up. Let's go for this one. You can see there's different designs here as well. Let's go for a holiday offer. So let's choose the holiday offer one. We're going to choose it. And again, this is just a template. This is completely editable. You can completely change the style on here. There's loads of different options. You can embed text, videos, images, anything that you want in here. I'm just using the template for the benefit of time. But you can see I've got the email in here. I've got submit. Obviously, you've got all the different settings here for style. When I'm ready, I'm going to hit save and next. From here, I can now start choosing when this pop-up will trigger. So I can go in and say, okay, well, I only want this one to show up on desktop because it's too big for mobile. I can tell it which audience, so whether it's all visitors, just direct traffic, just social traffic, whether it's new visitors, returning visitors. So lots of options I've got there. I can also do it based on whether they're known visitors or unknown visitors as well. We'll stick it to all for now. Hit save. I can choose what the trigger is. So when someone enters a page, when they're about to leave, when a visitor scrolls halfway down, we'll go for about to leave. Hit save. And I can choose what topic that person's then signed up for. So I'm going to say they signed up for newsletters. And we're going to say we've got consent from these people because they've filled out the form. Again, we can do response actions. Again, we can do push to CRM. Now, where this is super useful is now when I hit launch, are you sure you want to launch the pop-up? I am. Now, I don't need to copy any code to the website to launch this because when we initially did the integration, we copied that one line and put it in the header. That's all we needed. So once that initial one line of code was added, which we could have done if you've been using marketing automation for a while, might have been done years ago, you don't need to do anything else. If I now go to the website, and this is going to be the real test, I've got a private browser here just so I've not already triggered any of these things. And I'm going to go to the About Us. And we're going to scroll down a little bit. Again, this whole website was made by AI in like 20 minutes. It's incredible how good we can do these things. Now I'm going to go up as if I'm going to hit the cross, and I'm hoping, there we go, like magic, our holiday sale pop-up has happened. So we now have a smart pop-up that collects user information that dynamically shows up as someone's about to leave the page, and we've not had to contact the web developer at all. It just happens for us. And because this is so easy to do, we can switch them on and off really, really simply. So let's say this Christmas is now over. We're going to turn that one off. So I'm going to go in and I can pause that one. I can then create another one. I can clone it. I can do as many as I want. I can do it on specific pages if I want. And again, built into marketing automation, all you need is that one initial line of code that was added to the website when you first did the connection, and then you can add as many of these pop-ups over time. This is such a killer feature, particularly for smaller businesses where you might not have internally the expertise to do it, or you might not have the resources externally to do it. It might be, you don't currently have a web developer. It might be that they're working on a bigger project. It allows you in marketing to be really flexible, really dynamic with your campaigns because you can manage it all from marketing automation without having to get other people involved. So it's a really, really powerful tool, and it's one that's often overlooked by people that are using marketing automation. Now, on a very similar thing, again, we're going to switch around a little bit. We're going to pop into engagement pop-ups. I have no idea why engagement pop-ups are separate from everything else. I guess it's because engagement pop-ups don't capture leads in the same way, but they work in a similar way. So we're going to create an engagement pop-up. Again, I'm going to call this demo. We'll preview it on the About Us page. Hit next. An engagement pop-up's a little bit different. So whereas what we had before was a form where we were collecting details, this engagement pop-up is just a pop-up with information. So you can see some of the examples here are like deals, there's thank yous, there's announcements and things like that. But again, it means you can create one of these pop-ups really, really quick and easy. So let's say we want to give somebody an offer. So let's say we've got this 40% off offer here. Again, all of this is editable here. I'm going to hit save and next because we've got it. I can choose which page it's going to be. I'm actually going to change that because we've already got something on the About Us page. Let's do it on the home page. I'm going to pop that in there. Again, I can choose where it's going to go to. So I'm going to say it's going to go just on desktop. Again, I can choose the audience, and I can actually even build custom audiences here as well, where I can do custom criteria. Now, obviously, this works better with known contacts because things like their email address, their company, and things like that, you will only have for contacts that are known. You won't have those for anonymous contacts. But you've got that option here. I'm going to say I'm doing it for all visitors. Again, I'm going to go into my triggers, and I've got all sorts of different triggers here. So you can even do custom events as well. So if I go into add a new event to test, hit save, that actually gives me a little bit of code. So this would require a web developer, but it means you can have this triggered at an exact point you might want it. So maybe if somebody watches to the end of a video, you want this to trigger, this is where you could potentially work with a web developer to integrate what you're doing here. But for the most cases, we're probably going to use one of these. So let's say in our case, it's when we enter the page. So I'm going to do that. pop-up frequency, until the visitor completes the pop-up, even if the visitor's previously responded to the pop-up, show more than once, all of that kind of thing, all sorts of different options here. Again, we have our response actions and our push to CRM. And again, we can launch. And now if I go back to here again, I'm going to close my Christmas sale pop-up. I'm going to hit refresh. And if I go to the home, there we go. We now have our 40% off. No code again added to the website, just all managed directly from marketing automation. So again, makes it really easy as a marketing team to be able to dynamically put these different things up. You know, this kind of thing previously, you might have had to have gone to a web developer. They might have taken a week to get back to you and all of that kind of thing. You can just do it right from marketing automation. And particularly once you've done a couple, you'll have a style that's already set up. So then it's really easy to clone them, edit what the content is so it's exactly what you want it to be. So lots of different options in there. So going back over, I can see we did have a question there. Is marketing automation included in Zoho One? Yes, everything I'm showing right now is in Zoho One. I'm doing this in Zoho One. We pay for a Zoho One account as a test system here. This is just, there's nothing special here. It's just a Zoho One subscription. So the final thing I want to show you guys, and we're going to go back to lead generation, is landing pages. So everything else I've shown you so far under website integration is around adding stuff and integrating with your existing website. Landing pages allow you to build a bespoke web page for a specific campaign. So let's say I'm doing a webinar, imagine that. We're going to put in, okay, that's not very helpful. We'll call it webinar 2 because apparently it doesn't like webinar. This allows us to choose a template for an entire web page. You can see there's absolutely loads of templates in here. And in fact, I think there are some in here specifically for a webinar. There is. So I'm going to select that. And I'm going to use this template here. I'm going to hit choose. And what this is now, it's almost like a Squarespace, a Wix, any of those kind of drag and drop website builders, but it's specifically for building a landing page for a sort of one-time thing. So I can now go through and I can add buttons, I can add information, I can change all of this to build a custom web page. I can add forms in here. There's absolutely loads I can do in here. I can add media, interactive video, that's brand new. I can add a Zoho form in here, a CRM form. All of that kind of stuff I can build into my landing page, and then I can deploy that from marketing automation. Now, there is an extra step here if you want it to use your domain. So in my case, the domain here is gardenskylines.com. If I wanted this to be, I don't know, landing.gardenskylines.com, I would have to do a little bit of work just to connect up the DNS records. Probably a little bit out of the scope of this because it's getting more into the realm of setup. But if I just wanted to give a generic link, oh, it's asking me to map fields because I added a form. Let me just remove that form just for simplicity. Let me remove this. There we go. Let me delete that form. Yes. There you go. I don't think we have any other forms. Nope, that's good. So I'm going to do that. Hit publish now. And you can see it's going to give me a Zoho URL. So once I hit publish, this is then a web page. It's on the internet. I can share it with people. So I can copy that. I can go into here. I can paste this in. Oh, helps if I copy the right thing. Let me do that. Where's it gone? Let me just copy that. There we go. And I can pop that into there. And there's my web page. It's now live. It's as simple as that. And the templates here are pretty good. And again, once you've built one, you can clone it and reuse it. I can see Rosie's asking about, can you use custom HTML in here? So let me go into unpublish and I'll just show you a couple of your options here. So let's go back in. I don't know if it's going to let me edit it in the same way. Yeah, it will do. Perfect. So when you're in the editor, there's no button just to completely start from HTML. But what you can do is if I go into elements, I can add in here somewhere a HTML. Oh, there we go, a code snippet. So I can't build the entire thing directly with HTML, but if there's certain elements that are not achievable with the drag and drop interface, you can add a code block in here and then you can just paste the code in. We've done that with some clients where you can kind of get 90% there and then there's a specific thing they needed, so you can add the code block in there and that works quite well. But yeah, I really like the landing page editor. Now there is, if people are interested, there is a tool called Zoho Sites, which takes what you're doing in the landing page and allows you to build a whole website with it. Um, if I'm 100% honest on that, the tool's very good for a landing page. It probably wouldn't be my first choice for building a whole website on, just because once you start getting more complex, there are probably some limitations in there that are going to be more pronounced than if you're just building a landing page. But certainly for a landing page, this editor's really, really good. It's quite easy to use, and the templates in here are a great starting point. And again, it means it takes the power away from web developers that can be very expensive and hard to get hold of, and puts it back into the hands of the marketing team, allowing you to very quickly build these things, go live with these things, and benefit from these things. And as I said, once you've done that little bit of DNS work so that you can use your own URL, you can then do stuff like have it be event.gardenskylines.com, and that could go directly to your landing page. And one of the tricks there that we use quite a lot is you can reuse that same subdomain. So if it's events.gardenskylines.com, this week that might post to this webinar that I'm doing. Next week, that same domain may take you to a different webinar because it'll be the next webinar. So it's quite a useful way then, because you can share that URL everywhere and it won't go out of date because you just keep having new webinars on that same page, which can be quite useful. Again, with the landing pages, you get all of the same benefits we've spoken about elsewhere, where you can add response actions, push to the CRM, etc. And I think that brings us to our 90 minutes. I've got a little bit more time, so if people have questions, please do post them and I'll stick around for the next little while and answer any questions people have. Mark, I realise I didn't get back to your question on journey reporting. I don't know, do I have any journeys that I've sent in here? Let me have a quick look. Oh, there we go. So I have an active journey here. So once you've triggered a journey in marketing automation, you can go in and on the overview page, you'll see an overview of what's happened today, this week, last week, etc. And you can adjust that filter here. So I can do entire duration. So I can see that's how many people have entered that step, how many people have exited, etc. I can go in here and do like an X-ray where it can show me the, oh, is that because I'm doing it for so long? Oh, normally I can check these boxes to see the most used paths, but it's not letting me today. I can also put in an email address to see a specific person's journey through. And then I can also, on any of these blocks, I can click the little person with an eye, and I can see exactly who has gone into each of the parts of the journey and who has exited each part of the journey. So there's quite a lot of information in there. That said, Zoho Marketing Automation does integrate with Zoho Analytics, which allows you to build more complex and more powerful bespoke reporting if the built-in reporting doesn't quite give you what you need. Perfect. Does that answer your question, Mark? Hopefully that makes sense. Perfect. Okay, any other questions I can help people with today? No, hopefully all made sense then. What kind of webinar would people like to see next? That's a good question. We're currently booking in webinars for the next couple of months. We're going to start doing a monthly kind of what's new in Zoho webinar. We did a couple of those last year and they were quite popular and they were a great way to sort of see what's coming out across the different Zoho apps. If people have suggestions of what they want to see, please feel free to share it because I'm more than happy to work that into what we're doing. Oh, good question. Can you test a journey before you launch it? Oh, that's an easier said than done, that one. So the way I typically do this is if we open up our journey here, so we'll do our webinar journey as an example. What I would typically do is in each individual campaign, you can go in and send a test campaign, but that's not necessarily the best way to test it because you're only testing each stage, you're not testing the entire flow. So what I would do is I would go in, I'm going to just open this in a new tab. I would create a segment for your internal contacts that you're going to use to test. So it might be testing contacts, and these are going to be contacts with a contact email. In my case, contains Limitless. So I'm going to save that. And there we go. So I've got my two contacts here in this segment. What I would then do is I'd go back into my journey and I would initially have the segment be the testing contact segment. I would then save and launch that segment, that journey, so it goes out to those two people in that segment, in our testing segment. So then they can go through it as if it's normal. Once I'm happy, you can then edit the journey, and you can then add in a second trigger for the actual real segment that you want to enter the journey. But typically that's how I would test it, is I would have a segment of my test contacts, put them through first, and then put through my real segment. The only catch I'd recommend is when you're doing the testing, tweak the time delays to like an hour. Otherwise, what sometimes happens is you end up waiting weeks to do your testing. Um, Oh, Caroline, good question on that. So Caroline has sent a screenshot. I don't know. Can I share this with everybody? Bear with me a second because I think it'd be useful to everybody to see. I don't think there's anything private on here. Caroline, are you happy for me to share that screenshot just on the screen, if that's okay? Yeah, perfect. Thank you. So let me open that up. So Caroline has sent this screenshot here, which is very helpful. So if anybody else is seeing this view here, where you have like uh, a different logo, you have this different sidebar. That's Marketing Automation version 1. Zoho originally launched Marketing Automation, I think it was about 2019. The original version had a few issues, if I'm honest, quite a few teething problems. So they relaunched it a couple of years ago as Marketing Automation 2. That's what I've presented today as Marketing Automation 2. Now, in theory, what you should see when you access Marketing Automation version 1, you should get a pop-up to say you're using version 1, would you like to migrate? If you've not seen that, what I'd recommend is just messaging Zoho. And typically you can do that by going into your user profile. And typically they'll either be a write to us or sometimes there's a live chat. The live chat depends on your Zoho licensing and what country you're in and things like that. But yeah, this screenshot here is from the old version of Zoho Marketing Automation. So you want to move from there, and I wouldn't spend any time building in this because when you migrate, there's a lot of new features, and it might mean you're redoing some work. Perfect, good. I'm glad that all makes sense, Caroline. Any other questions from anybody else I can help with? Perfect. As I say, what I will do with this is it'll probably take me a bit of time this afternoon, but this will be uploaded to our website. So if people want to look back over the recording, please do go in and go to our website and you'll be able to see that. We've actually just updated our website to match our new branding. I forgot to use our fancy new presentation as well. But yeah, if you go to our website, so from our website, you can go to resources and webinars, and it's got a list of our upcoming future webinars and also our past webinars where you can click in, put in your email, and you'll be able to see the webinar. The other thing we've got on here, which we love, and not many people are using yet because we've only just launched it, but we love it, a Zoho news section. So in here, we're posting updates of all the different app updates that are happening across Zoho, and you can go in and filter. So if you just care, say, about Zoho CRM, you can click this and it'll show you all of the app updates that have come to Zoho CRM. And if you click into them, it'll give you a brief description of what the update is. Normally gives you a screenshot, but not in that case. Let me try the other one. That one doesn't have any screenshots. Let's try that again. There we go. This one has screenshots. There we go. So you can see the screenshots in there. And you can click through, read the original article from Zoho. But it's just a good way to keep up to date. And if you pop your email in here as well, you'll start getting a weekly email from us of what's new in Zoho. Zoho are always updating their apps, so it's just a good way to hopefully keep up to date with what's going on. If you did find this useful and you're still around, feel free to visit our website to book an introduction meeting with us. We do introduction meetings all the time with lots of different potential clients. It's not a particularly salesy call at all. Really what we're doing is looking to understand how you're currently using Zoho, if there's a way we could potentially help you get more from your subscription, and if there's a way we could potentially work together to make that happen. As I say, there's 4 of us now full time. We've got an additional part-time person. We're currently working with around 30 UK-based clients in all sorts of different industries, different sizes. Last year, our client renewal rate was 93%. So far this year, it's at 100%. I don't want to jinx it, but I know up until May, all of our renewals coming up in May have already committed to renewing. So I don't want to jinx it, but so far we're 100%. We're a Zoho Authorised Partner, so we know this stuff inside out. So if people have questions, if you need help with your Zoho system, if you don't feel like you're getting enough from it, please do let us know, because we're absolutely here to help, and we'll be doing more of these webinars as well to help people get more from the Zoho subscription. It looks like that is all of the questions, so I will wrap up today. Thank you very much for your time, everybody. I know it's a long time to spend looking at Zoho, but I really hope it's been helpful. And as I say, if there's anything we can do to help, or any questions you guys have after the fact, please do drop us an email or visit the website, and we'll be there to help. Perfect. Appreciate it. Thanks, guys. Yes, we will email out the recording. Once it's live, I'll drop an email to everybody to let them know it's live so you can access it. No problem at all. Perfect. Thanks, guys. Really appreciate it. Oh, amazing. Thank you, guys. You're all so kind. And I can see a couple of clients in here as well, so I'm expecting there'll be some follow-up work coming to us as well now that I've shown you some of these cool things we can do. Cool. Okay. Thank you very much, guys. Have a good afternoon. Speak to you all soon. Bye.